Hey guys, we're here today at the Solent Sky Museum in Southampton, looking at the history of Southampton's aviation heritage. The museum itself covers aviation from around Southampton area, dating back to World War I. Here we see an Avro 504. Perhaps more famously though is the Spitfire. Southampton being synonymous with production of the Spitfire during World War II, there's a lot of submarine within the museum itself, including a Swift that is being restored currently. One of the last submarine aircraft. This is such a gem, and it's so nice to see another one being restored because they are few and far between. We also have a number of cockpits on display. This is just the part of the Swift, but there's a number of them throughout the museum. Of course, no museum about aviation would be complete without looking at how its city dealt with World War II. This incredible section has a little cinema where you can learn about the different areas of life in World War II, and just tells you about how Southampton was bombed and the people endured heroically. I really loved this display, and I just thought it was really good at helping you understand the area. As someone who hasn't really been here before and didn't know a lot about Southampton, it was really cool. And this wall showing the Spitfire's lineage, although it's something that I already knew, Mr. Modeler didn't, and it was just really cool seeing this history in front of us and seeing it go from Spitfire all the way up to submarine attacker.
One of the main attractions of the Solent Sky Museum is the SR.A flying boat. This is the first jet-propelled flying boat ever made into one. It was a fighter aircraft, and unfortunately you can't quite see it behind me, but it is a huge aircraft. In fact, it's just over here behind me. So let's go have a look.
This is perhaps one of my most favourite aircraft of all time, and one I hope to build a model of soon. Now, the Saunders-Roe SR.A was a fighter jet that came flying out of World War II and first flew in 1947. This was the first jet-propelled water-based aircraft in the world, and it's just an incredible design. You can see the World War II heritage on things like the cockpit, but it's just such a modern concept. A flying boat fighter that's a jet. It's an absolutely absurd concept and a far cry from that coming from World War II. Unfortunately though, this came at the time when flying boats were really going out of fashion, both because they were just not really viable anymore, and also that while we'd got land-based fighters that could go far enough, that sea aircraft were not really needed, and aircraft carriers could carry them on fighter jets that this, I guess, was intended to replace. Though this was a fascinating subject and a fascinating study, it absolutely was a product of its time. I'm glad that we at least have the footage seeing this fly, and I feel really lucky that we have one that exists still in the world today. And I guess that's kind of the message of most of the Solent Sky Museum, is that the era of the flying boat, including this mighty flying boat fighter jet, is a romantic era that is long gone and we'll probably never see again. Whilst I love looking at these things, when you actually walk around some of them, I think you can understand the scale of them and why they never really were ever going to be commercially viable once the land-based or even carrier-based counterparts became so much more affordable, but also gaining that global reach that came with the development of jet engines. I mean, it was the jet that killed the flying boat. Speaking of flying boats, we do have the short S-25 Sandringham on display in the centre of this museum. Now, many of you may be thinking that this aircraft looks really familiar, and that's because it is a Shorts Sunderland, the converted civilian type. One of the amazing things about the museum was showing you how prevalent the flying boat was, and I really loved this interactive exhibit that showed you the routes that Imperial Airways took. It really helped you see just how far-reaching these were, and this was something that people used to get to far-flung reaches of the world at that time. But as we've mentioned previously, cheaper, jet land-based travel was just more affordable. As soon as things like the Comet came onto the scene and then Boeing had their 707, the flying boat was really just at its end. It was really cool walking around the Sandringham though. Having been on the Short Sunderland at Hendon, this was really unique seeing the civilian version, and I just love sitting here and just dreaming about how amazing it would have been to fly on these vessels all across the world. Now we have much more modern aircraft in this exhibit too, including the Solent that you see here. There's a Sea Vixen on here as well, and there's also the cockpit of a Harrier alongside the cockpit of the Swift. But there is also a tribute to the Isle of Wight here with the Britten-Norman story. Britten-Norman produced the Islander and also the Trilander. The Trilander being a really weird and unique 3-engined commercial aircraft, and the Islander being something that has been used both in military and in civilian service. Britten-Norman have had a long and complex history since their first aircraft in 1951 up to their current variants of the Britain BN2 Islander that they produce today. They've gone from being owned from Very Aviation, the owners of Pilatus, British Aviation, and then numerous investments and investment firms. It seems now they aren't owned by Britten-Norman Aerospace again, but they are a really unique part of the aviation journey of this area of the country. I grew up knowing the Islander and the Trilander. I remember going to go on holiday and just seeing the Trilander sat at an airport and just thinking what a unique aircraft that was. Now, no museum would be complete without its model displays, and there were plenty here. I particularly love this one because it had such big and unique aircraft, but there were also ones like this that helped show more unique aspects of the area. Of course, as previously mentioned, there is a Swift cockpit that I got myself in and out of. Didn't think about this when I wore a skirt for the day, but never mind, I still got in and out of it with no issues, and there was also a Harrier next to it. The museum itself is laid out really nicely. There's also a police history museum, or I think police and fire service history museum at the top of the museum too, and that's just included as a part of your entry price. I think entry was about £12 or so, and it was a really good day out. Myself and Mr. Modeler spent a long chunk of our day there. I think arriving about 10:15, 10:30 and staying there until about 1:30. It's not a massive museum, and well, it's not got the biggest collection probably in the country either. But it's definitely a unique collection and a vital part of the aviation story of Britain. Being able to see these mighty flying boats that once ruled the airways and are now relegated to history is something that I am very glad to have. So if you are ever in the vicinity of Southampton, I do recommend just taking half of your day to go and visit and support this absolutely wonderful museum, because you'll really be glad you did. Thank you so much to all my channel members. You're the reason I can do more unusual things than just the latest and greatest model kits, which is something I really enjoy, and I think you guys enjoy too. Thank you to Bob and Genevieve Albridge, David Barber, Taggers365, Jeff's Dioramas, Iron Duke, and my two longest advanced kit level members, Crazy Locha and Explosive Water. But of course, my starter kit level members, I love you too, and thank you so much for all your support over the years. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel to stay up to date with the latest and greatest videos that I release, hopefully each week, but sometimes there will be little gaps. But whilst you're waiting for that next video, go and look at this recommended one that YouTube's done just for you.